Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Awakened Women podcast. We are here to be part of deep conversations between women about different topics. I'm very, very excited about the topic today. In today's episode, I'm with Simi, who is a sacred sex coach and the founder of Ja Academy. We will talk about how sacred sex awakens curiosity within ourselves to explore and experience pleasure as a way to get to know ourselves better, heal mainly sexual wounds, and take our love life to the next level. It starts focusing on the sexual part, as we talked before with Simi. However, this topic can really take you deeper to get to know yourself on a deeper level, so you discover how these sexual wounds can be related to any other wounds. So let's start talking a little bit about yourself, Simi, and if you would like to do an intro and tell us a little bit, what you do and how you started the Ja Academy.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited about this all week. I love sharing and discussing ideas with other women, so thank you. So for those that don't know, I am Simi. I am the founder of Ja Academy. I started getting into tantric sex and exploring that idea about a year ago. From there, I basically deep dived and became obsessed with like the healing aspects of it, the psychological aspects of it, and the spiritual aspects. Through studying it, I realized that there's a lot of differences between what we know as tantric and what tantra actually is. So from there, I basically went into seeing why it was still such a big hype and finding out more and more about how it relates to modern couples, including healing sex wounds, becoming truly present, and taking your sex life to the next level. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I need to also be very honest that I wasn't really much into that topic, just because I haven't heard much, and I always kind of like related or linked it with sex and mainly like how we can get turned on, but it actually has so many deeper levels, and the aspect that really kind of like got my attention was how this practice brings spirituality and sexuality together and emphasizes in the importance of intimacy during a sexual experience. And this is something that we really like if we think about it, how we grow up and when we start having relationships and having that intimacy, we don't really have much information about how to best practice this. So in normal terms in Western society terms, how will you explain these practices?
So basically how I teach my practices, I break down into three parts. The first is we've got to look at why we're in our heads and not in our bodies. So that's looking at common sex wounds that a lot of people don't think they have, but they're there. And then we look at building communication and trust. And then finally, we start learning meditative sex, which is becoming really present, really vulnerable, letting all those walls down, really feeling what we're experiencing and taking our love life and our relationships to like that next level of intimacy.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like, even more now recently, and I'm sure everyone who is listening to this episode will resonate, is that we are getting more and more into exploring those areas, right? That exploring that intimacy within ourselves, getting to know ourselves better as a way to improve our relationship with ourselves, but also the relationship with others, because we cannot really come to a relationship and be the best partner that we can be if we don't really know ourselves, if we don't really know what we want. And that includes knowing our wounds, being aware, being conscious about what are the aspects, what are the wounds, what are the fears that are stopping me from feeling pleasure, feeling safe in my body, and feeling confident in my body, because there's so many aspects in sexuality that play such an important part for us to really be completely present in that moment, and being there for ourselves and our partner, and really deepening that intimacy, and that, you know, involves also vulnerability. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny because even in my own healing journey, I did the common shadow work questions, and deep dived into all these aspects of myself and really went through it all. And then towards the end, I was like, no one even talks about the sexual stuff, and we have to have sex with ourselves like for the rest of our lives, sex with others for the rest of our lives. Like there's wounds there too that need attention and need healing. And a lot of the time when we just shine light on it, then they tend to dissipate. It's a couple of journals, it's just digging deep and recognizing that part of ourselves and accepting it and moving forward. And oh my God, it can change everything.
Yeah, oh my God, it's just like a Pandora box. I think I was saying that to you when we were chatting before doing the podcast, that once we really like get, to explore those aspects, those deep aspects about ourselves, we find out like so many things. But I want people to see this more as a, curiosity, as an excitement of getting to know ourselves better, rather than, oh, I'm scared of what I'm going to find. So is building that safety in our bodies, right? To be able to face those wounds and heal those wounds. So just in terms of your experience, what are the most common like wounds or, fears that people will have around this?
So a lot of people, when they hear the term sex wound, assume that it's trauma or abuse related. And while some of that is, anything that keeps us stuck in our head and not being fully present is considered a sex wound. So you have really, really common ones such as society pressures for females. If she's enjoying it, she's a slut. If she's, can I say that on here?
100%.
If she doesn't enjoy it, she's frigid. So women kind of get stuck in this box of, well, I can't pretend that I like it too much, never alone explain what I like and how I want to get off. And it becomes more about the male in that way. And then also with the frigid side of things, a lot of women feel like I have to put out this many times a week, or I might lose my relationship, or he might assume our relationship's going bad. And there's all that stereotype of, oh, I only have sex with my wife once a month, and then that's a bad thing. And another big one is insecurities. So really anything related to insecurity, body image, hair maintenance, anything that society really puts on us. Another really common one for females is the pressure of porn, because while I have no bad towards porn, it puts this idea in our head that we have to perform a certain way in order to get attention and etc. So that's a really big one, because then when we're performing for someone else, we're not focusing on what we enjoy. We're constantly thinking about their experience. So that's not just to do with women. There's also ones with men, and men's quite the opposite, where they're constantly taught, don't cry, don't be emotional, hold back your feelings, don't express it. And when you take away someone's ability to express and feel, it's really hard for them to adore you and see you for all that you are, because they're afraid of fear and rejection from this vulnerability. They also have pressures to perform, how long they last, insecurities around their size, then their own body. And I've spoken to a lot of male clients, and a big one is they always tend to get in their heads thinking about what the woman's enjoying or what she's thinking about, and they can get really, really trapped in there. So then they constantly trying to appease her as well. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is such an interesting topic. And to be honest, I'm so glad that we're starting to talk about all this, because the more we talk about it, the more we bring light, the more we understand that all the fears and the wounds that we have, they are very common. And we are all in this journey of rediscovering ourselves and building that, healthy dynamic and connection between men and women. So one of the things that really stood up of the amazing explanation that you just gave is like society programming. That's, I would say, pretty much like how these sex wounds could started. could have started, because we grow up in a society where, as you say, we shame women for being sensual, for being exotic, from being sexy, from showing interest and desire and pleasure, for wanting to have sex. But we also shame them for not wanting anything, and really low sex drive, really low libido, she's got problems. So it's really finding our own identity, and really getting to know ourselves and embracing all those sides. And it's funny because I follow one of the coaches, and she always says we need to embrace the slut within us, the one who enjoys pleasure, the one who enjoys the act, the one who wants to explore, who wants to be curious, who wants to make it fun, right? This is about being fun and having this adventure and interaction between two people, two souls, because we see it more spiritual, we are more spiritual. And then there's also, the inner child girl, the little girl who wants also, affection, who wants, things slow, at her, like a slow pace, getting into the act, like in a, more conscious way, not rushing, being gentle. And there's the empowered self that we also have, which is, the one who wants to show that sensuality, the ones who wants to play, the ones to move like in sexy ways. And at the end of the day, is because we want to be that woman, and we want to explore and be whoever we want in the act, not because what men wants.
Yes.
And if we, no, I was just gonna say, and if we come into like with that position, there's no way that the other person, either men or women, like in both, there's it could be both aspects, won't love that, because when someone comes with that confidence and loving who they really are, that means they will enjoy that the act even more.
Absolutely. And once you take that power kind of back by rediscovering these wounds and giving them attention, you can fully step into your sexual power, and that comes across to partners. And particularly, you feel more confident to talk about, today I feel like this, and today I feel like that, and I'm at the end of my period cycle, so I'm not as turned on. You feel free to actually express where you're at and what's happening and what you need. So it's great, because you don't just have to do this with a partner. You can, and in fact, if anyone listening, I encourage you to sit down with a journal tonight and literally just write out some of your wounds, and just slowly go through them and have a look at what's stopping you. Because even when we self-play, a lot of women and men have a thing called cum shame, where they orgasm and then they feel shame and they feel bad for what they've just done. So if you go into that experience going, I deserve pleasure and I own who I am, it's a completely different shift with you physically, mentally, and spiritually, because you're accepting every aspect.
And it's just giving ourselves permission to feel pleasure. It's part of our human nature, and it's part of ourselves as a way to deepen our connection with ourselves and with others. So I think we tend to see sex just as the act, but we need to integrate it in a way that we get to know ourselves better. It also is a good way to get to know our wounds. So when we start exploring, okay, in which ways I'm not really showing up as my authentic self, and why is, and as you said, like really good tip, start asking yourself those powerful questions, right? Like, why am I scared of showing up? I remember, like, now talking, of personal experiences, when in my first romantic relationships, I grew up like in South America, where like the culture is more religious. So I used to feel shame when I started having that intimacy with my partner, and then as I started growing up and getting to know myself better, and being empowered of being myself, that changed completely, and the difference is just amazing. And you start realizing how much society has a play in it, and also our parents, because they don't really explore or raise those topics that are so important And it also plays a big part about feeling confident about our bodies, as you mentioned.
Yeah, a big one as well is here in Australia, when you go to school, we get sexual education class, and it's basically how to put a condom on a banana, and if you have sex, you'll catch a disease. Like
Yeah.
there's no discussion of like pleasure and it's okay and it's normal. It's quite this quiet and shunned thing. And those that went to quite religious schools barely got any kind of information at all. So I think it's really important to start having these conversations
Yeah.
with yourself and with other partners,
Yeah.
because addressing the wounds won't just fix where you're at sexually, it also changes and radiates throughout your whole life.
Mhm.
It gives you gives you a sense of self-belief and self-empowerment that you're now welcome to show up into any
Yeah.
meeting or boardroom and be who you are.
Oh, I love that part, Simi. I love it. And I hope like this will be one of the key parts of this episode. Like it gives you a sense of self-power, like empowered, you know, feeling that empowerment within ourselves to be who we are. So I want to kind of like also talk a little bit about how we can get started in simple, steps, how we can, get to explore ourselves more in that aspect, in, getting to understand our deeper wounds, sexual wounds.
So a good idea is, like I mentioned before, with journaling, it's the best question to ask yourself is reflect on previous experiences and think about the times that you were in your head. Think of the common narratives you were telling yourself. Were you, oh, I'm doing this because I feel like I have to, or he's going to leave the relationship, or were you worried about how this might look? Were you worried because you weren't shaved enough? Like what constantly runs through your head? Because in sacred sex, that's the first step, is getting out of our heads to get into our body. So we're kind of using this to lead up to really getting to what I call the good stuff.
Yeah, like understanding our patterns.
Yes, absolutely. Another really great way, if you're not sure, have a meditate on it and see what comes up. If you feel shame after individual play, think of, well, why? So it's really just constantly turning that dialogue back inwards, and you know the answer. Like when you dig deep enough, it's there, and it's, I know your subconscious kind of trying to scream out, being like, finally you're paying attention to me. So once you start, it all kind of starts flooding.
Yeah, I love all this. Like it's so interesting, and I think like the more we get deeper into these topics, the more we understand how everything can be related. Because another great aspect about sacred sex is also like building that vulnerability and radical honesty with our partner. And I know you also post a lot about those topics. So in my case, I think vulnerability can be one of the most scary ones, because it's really showing our shadow. But for us to really get to know what our shadows are, that's when we need to start to ask ourselves these questions, right? Like, what is it within myself that I'm feeling that I'm not being myself, that I'm not fully letting myself explore pleasure and feel confident in my body. So what's your view on vulnerability and how best to approach it when it also involves your partner?
So I've actually just written a second book, which I'm about to release. And I've included a chapter before going into sex wounds, and it's all about building vulnerability and trust. And this book's for both singles and couples. And I've got journal prompts for singles, and I've got questions to ask your partner. And the reason that we're doing this is because once you open up those gates of talking about, oh, the first time I fell in love with you was this and this, and coming up with really good answers and getting used to that conversation flowing, when we start to dig deep into the things like the sex wounds, it's a much easier conversation. When you feel like you can talk to your partner, it's a lot easier to go, babe, I'm so sorry. I'm just really in my head tonight. I'm struggling to fully turn up, okay, honey, why don't we try this or that? And then I don't know, you're not hiding it. It's not secretive, because once we're secretive about it, those wounds kind of deepen and snowball.
Yeah, and it is honoring ourselves and also our boundaries, right? Because when we just say yes for the other person and not because we want to say yes, we will build resentment.
Mhm.
And then what happens is, if we don't have enough self-awareness, if we don't have, done any inner work, we will start to project those wounds and that resentment. So we will always blame our partners for our own wounds. And if we don't decide to actually look within and take ownership and accountability, okay, there's a part I'm playing in all these relationships, not saying that it's all your fault, but we play a part in our relationship dynamics. So is being willing to go there and being willing to really look into our wounds and how I can be, projecting that and sabotaging my relationship. So as we said, like it can open other wounds. And in my work, I do a lot of inner child wounds, abandonment wound, different, attachment styles around avoidance and anxious attachment. And this all affects the sexual aspect as well.
Absolutely. And just to go back to the questions quickly, a good part of asking partnered questions like that is sometimes you get answers that you don't like. And it's kind of teaching you how not to react and how to remain that safe space and hold space for your partner, so that when they do go, honey, I'm in my head tonight, I don't feel like it, you're not like, what is it about me? You don't take it personally. So it's all about baby steps and figuring out who you are, figuring out who you are sexually, figuring out who you are sexually in a relationship, and then how you can take running to the ground and keep going with it.
Yeah. And I think like a really important part that will connect what you just mentioned is communication, right? Like we sometimes are just, I'm not in the mood. And that sometimes can be taken personal for the other person. But if we explain, I'm not in the mood today, babe, because, I had a really hard day at work. I'm not really into that mental headspace. And the other person, if it's a good relationship and a good partner, will totally honor that. And we also give permission to them to also, say no when they feel that way. So it's building that really, good communication and honesty to be ourselves, to express ourselves, and to do the things that first for ourselves, to honor our boundaries and our needs. And then, giving our partners that permission as well.
And a really good piece of advice that I can give to women out there is tell your partner where you're at in your monthly cycle, because leading up to ovulating, you are going to be like, yes, I want it, blah, blah, blah. And then towards the end of the month, you're not going to feel like it. And
100%.
I'm at a place now where I'm like, it's towards the end of the month, and then it's this understanding, like, one 2 weeks.
And that will help a lot, because then they can also know when is the best phase to reach out. And probably will be like, oh my God, yes, let's do it, right? Like,
yeah.
And when will be maybe the right a good phase to be more, like gentle, nurturing, like being, affectionate, not necessarily in a sexual way. When we're getting close to our period, we tend to feel more emotional, we slow down, our bodies go with the menstrual cycle, go also with, all the seasons of nature. But this is another topic for another episode. But it's just, how amazing how all this is connected.
Absolutely. It's funny, like I know I keep saying, but once you start digging, you realize so many things about yourself, and it's just fascinating to see this whole new light of you and this whole sexual woman who's willing to come forward. And you'll find that your sex drive as well will just go through the roof, because you're finally accepting and letting go and becoming free and giving yourself permission to be sexual.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that I always not always thought, but when I started doing the inner work, right, and I started, exploring myself in a way, asking the questions of what do I like, what are the things that I enjoy the most? Like when I started just in general getting to know myself better and my wounds better and working on them, I also realized, and let me know what you think, because I would like to know your thoughts. The more we allow ourselves to feel our emotions and be vulnerable with ourselves in a way that if I feel upset, I let myself be upset, always in healthy ways, never against other people. I just want to clarify that. It's good to let ourselves feel emotions, but not against people. And then, let myself feel the resentment, let myself feel disappointed, let myself feel, all those wounds that and emotions that are repressed in our body. So the more I allowed myself to feel those emotions, the more sexually I will be.
Mhm.
And I
Abs-
started kind of like growing in my sexual, areas where I was enjoying, like more and exploring more. So yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think that there's a relation there?
Absolutely. I think that if you think of in a relationship, right, as soon as you're stressed, as soon as you don't feel heard, as soon as you don't feel seen, you're turned off. You don't want it. You kind of have to be on a good level to be really like excited about it. So I
Yeah,
think that also relates to our relationship deeply with ourselves. If
yeah,
we're suppressing all these things and we're trying to keep, the lid on the bottle and it's trying to steam over, um, yeah, but we're not going to get there. We're not going to get excited about it. And I've done my holistic counseling certificate, and I always say to people, when they're like, "Oh, I've got anxiety and I can't get rid of it," and blah blah blah. I'm like, "But did you sit with it? You've done everything you can to get rid of it and tell it to go away. But did you say, 'Hey, anxiety, thanks for keeping
yes,
me safe. Thanks for doing your job.
yeah,
I appreciate you, but I need to move on with my day.'" Because once you do, it just
yeah,
lifts. You
yeah,
felt it. All your subconscious wants you to do is recognize those
yeah.
emotions. And
Exactly. It's acknowledgement. It's crazy because when I started doing the inner work and I will keep hearing, sit with your emotions, you will be like, "Ah, what does this even means?" Like just literally turn your attention and your focus towards that feeling. Where in your body are you feeling it? It
mm,
can be your chest, it can be, the top of your stomach, it can be, I don't know, your legs, your back. Just focus on that side of the body and really kind of like focus your attention intentionally and really like get in touch with that feeling. Like, I feel anxious. And as soon as you acknowledge, like that feeling will just like reduce the intensity in such a big level. And
yeah,
when you do that, sometimes even like you would like to cry, you would like, just to release moving your body, you would like to punch a pillow, like whatever the emotion is, just let it feel, let it be released and just move on in the sense that, you are ready to kind of like release it and let it go. But it's understanding and getting to the practice of, emotions are just emotions, and we tend to label or assign, a story about it, about ourselves. Oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, people don't love me, my partner doesn't love me, that my partner doesn't care about me, or anything. It can be anything. So it's, learning to just get in touch with those emotions without
and
having.
that's all sex wounds is. It's just emotions that we've had and we've attached a sex narrative to it. So we might have dealt with that emotion in a healing journey, when it came to ourselves, but have we done it with, okay, what's the limiting belief I'm telling myself sexually here? What
Yes.
limiting beliefs am I holding myself back from? Like,
Yeah.
what's keeping me in this, I'm not 100% here, I'm not 100% present. And once you do that, the levels of pleasure that increase. So many women have reported back to me and said, I didn't realize how numb I was. And then the more that they're releasing it, they're getting feelings and sensations in these parts of the body that have completely just almost shut down and repressed. And yeah, there's a great book, The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah. Oh my God. I bought it.
Oh, did you?
I'm finishing the 5 a.m. club that I also highly, highly recommend for anyone who is listening. And then I will go to the Body Keeps the Score. Apparently that one is like mind blowing.
It's mind blowing. And particularly in his book, he speaks a lot about people with like PTSD and trauma,
Yeah.
um, almost losing sensations of certain parts of their bodies. But it just doesn't have to be people with PTSD and traumas. You can have other wounds that are smaller and lose some sensation.
Yeah, disassociation. Oh, disassociation. Sorry about
Yeah.
my pronunciation.
So that's why some of my content as well, I talk a lot about mind body connection, doing free dancing, yoga, breath work, anything that practices getting you back into your body will help relieve those physical symptoms as well as the psychological.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just how amazing how like all these are just related to, you know, wounds and getting to explore ourselves in deeper ways and really getting to understand our emotional history, our emotional patterns. So now like if we want to leave the audience with, you know, a few quick steps on how they can get started in this journey.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned at the beginning, you know, just, you know, be willing to go there, to face your feelings. What else will you say?
I would say start doing some of the mind body practices as well. Start trying to reconnect with your body. Feel where those emotions are. Feel where that tension is. Obviously, the journaling as well, and yeah, keep asking yourself those journal prompts to help dig deep. And meditation as well is a great one to help
Yeah.
connect back into the body. Just do a meditation, focusing on your breath, even a guided meditation. Like a body scan guided meditation will really help.
Yeah, definitely. When I started all this, you know, personal development journey, one of the things was my morning routines and my mindfulness routines. There's no healing if we don't connect with the body, because healing happens in the body, not in the mind. So we can really understand everything about something. We can really understand our emotional history. We can really understand how to actually do the work. But if we don't actually do the work by feeling it, by sitting with the emotions, by, you know, letting ourselves be more in tune with our body, there's probably like, you know, no progress, no healing gonna be there. So I think that's a really important part. And if people would like to get in contact with you, Simi, how they can reach out?
So my TikTok is Jar Academy. I highly recommend going and having a look at it. There's heaps of mind body videos. There's couples questions, and underneath I've pinned single or self shadow work prompts, as well as some position tips, which everyone seems to love.
Amazing. Yeah, we all love it.
Yeah, and then my Instagram, or you can head to my website, jaracademy.com. I do have a new book coming out that has individual exercises as well as couple exercises, and will also teach you how to practice sacred sex on your own and with a partner. So it's kind of like the encyclopedia of my brain at this point.
Wow, that sounds like amazing and really interesting. I cannot wait to really get into your book. So please let us know when you are gonna release it. And I will also be putting your details just in the description of the podcast for anyone who would like to reach out. So yeah, like any other really key things that you would like to mention before we close the episode?
I think the key thing that I can say is go explore the wounds and give yourself permission to enjoy pleasure.
Yeah.
Just say yes to yourself and start there and look at the changes.
Say yes to yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, love that part. Yeah, definitely. And I think once we start in this journey and really, you know, like exploring and giving ourselves permission, as you said, to, you know, have fun, to feel pleasure, to receive. Sometimes I think that's another good one that I want to mention before closing, is like letting ourselves feel comfortable with receiving.
Yes.
Yeah, and feeling safe in our body. But it's a process, is, you know, a journey. Just start. Your body will always know what's best for you. You have all the answers that you need within yourself to heal yourself. As coaches are just a great way to empower, guide, and ask the powerful questions, because we went through that already. But you have everything you need within yourself. So if you want to get in touch with Simi for any sacred sex coaching or any of the amazing key things that she mentioned, please get in touch. And yeah, I also cover just the inner work and all the emotional healing and personal mastery. So yeah, really a nice topic, and so happy to be doing this with you. Thank you for being here, Simi.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.
I will see you soon.
Okay,
Bye.
then. Bye.